The idea that your life is controlled by the meaning you give your experiences is one of the most powerful truths you can ever understand, because it explains why two people can go through the exact same event and come out with completely different destinies. It's not the event that shapes you. It's not the circumstance. It's not the heartbreak, the failure, the rejection, the loss, the disappointment, or the injustice itself. It's the interpretation you attach to it. The meaning becomes the lens you look through, and that lens determines the choices you make, the emotions you live with, and the future you create. Every experience you've ever had was filtered through a meaning your mind created in a fraction of a second, often without your awareness. Maybe something happened years ago. Maybe someone told you you were not good enough. And in that moment, you gave that experience the meaning that you were limited or broken or unworthy. And that meaning became a pattern. That pattern became a belief. And that belief began to shape your identity. Most people never question the meaning. They think the meaning is the truth. They think their interpretation is reality. But the truth is, the meaning was chosen by you, by your past, by your emotional state, by your fears, by your environment. And because it was chosen, it can be changed. When you start to recognize that the meaning you've been living with is optional, you begin to take back control. You start to realize that the pain you thought was permanent was actually just a message pointing to something you needed to see. You begin to understand that the disappointment you thought proved you weren't enough was actually shaping a strength you hadn't discovered yet. You begin to see that the struggle you thought was punishment may have been preparation. The moment you see that, even for a second, something inside you opens. You experience a shift from being controlled by life to becoming the one who designs it. Every emotion you feel originates from meaning. If you give a situation the meaning that you're being attacked, you feel fear or anger. If you give it the meaning that you're being challenged to grow, you feel determination. If you give it the meaning that life is happening for you, you feel gratitude and possibility. It's the same situation, but the meaning transforms your entire internal world. And once your internal world changes, your behavior changes. You act differently. You speak differently. You think differently. You take risks you never would have taken. You see paths you never would have considered. You access strengths you forgot you had. The quality of your life is the quality of the meanings you consistently assign. If you assign empowering meanings, your life expands. If you assign limiting meanings, your life contracts. Most people live in emotional patterns created by meanings they never consciously chose. They go through life repeating old interpretations that don't serve them. They assume the meaning is fixed, but nothing could be further from the truth. Meaning is fluid. Meaning is flexible. Meaning is something you create in real time. And once you claim that power, nothing in your life remains the same. This is where personal transformation begins. By interrupting the automatic meaning-making process that has been shaping your identity for years. You start asking different questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? You ask, what can this give me? What can this teach me? What strength is being created in me right now? Those questions force your mind to assign a new meaning, one that lifts you rather than limits you. And with that new meaning, you begin to reclaim your emotional freedom, your mental clarity, and your ability to shape a future that reflects who you truly are instead of who you believed you were. A single true decision has more power to redirect your entire destiny than years of hoping, wishing, or planning, because a real decision is not just a thought, it's a psychological commitment that eliminates every other option. Most people think they're making decisions when really they're making preferences. They say they want change, but they leave the escape hatch open. They say they want a better life, but they keep the old habits within reach. A true decision is different. It's a moment when you draw a line in your life and say with absolute certainty, this is who I am now. This is what I do. This is where I'm going. And from that moment forward, your behavior, your thinking, your standards, and your identity begin to shift to align with that decision. It becomes the organizing principle for your actions. Think about the turning points in your life. They didn't happen because the world suddenly changed. They happened because you decided something with enough emotional intensity that it reshaped your direction. It could have been a moment you chose to walk away from something that was destroying you, or a moment you decided to pursue something you knew you were meant for. It could have been the moment you said no more, or the moment you said now is the time. Those moments weren't accidents. They were decisions made with complete clarity and emotional leverage. And those decisions put your life on a different trajectory. A true decision creates momentum. It changes your emotional state instantly because it closes the door to hesitation. When the mind no longer negotiates, energy is released. You stop wasting mental and emotional resources debating with yourself. You stop going back and forth. There's a psychological stability that appears when the decision is real. And with that stability comes forward motion. You begin to take actions you had been avoiding. You begin to show up in ways you never had before. You begin to follow through with a level of consistency that once felt impossible. The reason a true decision is so powerful is because it shifts your identity. Humans act in alignment with who they believe they are. When you make a real decision, you declare to yourself, this is me now. And once your identity shifts, your choices align naturally. You don't need willpower, you need clarity. You don't need motivation, you need commitment. When your identity shifts, habits become inevitable. Discipline becomes automatic. Direction becomes obvious. People often wait for things to feel right before deciding. But the truth is that deciding is what makes things feel right. You don't wait for confidence to decide. You decide, and that decision creates confidence. You don't wait for ideal circumstances. You decide, and the decision forces you to create the circumstances. Your destiny changes the moment you decide who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. And in that moment, the world inside you reorganizes, revealing possibilities that were invisible before.